This morning I want to speak about the renaissance of the physical. Sounds weird, but I will explain it. So I think we all have this we all see this renaissance of the physical, the renaissance of the communication in the real space as a reaction onto now 20 years of communication in the virtual space of the internet. And as a media designer, I'm allowed to talk about that. I think you all have observed this increasing amount of exhibitions and museums which had been open over the last 3 to 5 years. We observe an increasing number of visitors in museums worldwide, and it's really significantly increasing. And we don't only see this in the cultural field, we also see this in the corporate field. So a lot of corporates, they're shifting their communication budget from traditional media like print, like broadcast, and they also consider the internet as a traditional medium, onto the communication in the real space. So it seems that we have a desire now to leave from time to time the computer and the monitor and go into a museum or go into any kind of narrative space to experience information and entertainment together with other people. So if we are looking onto the design of these narrative spaces, then we see a huge difference compared to the pre-digital times. So the visitors of these narrative spaces, they are now computer literate. They know exactly about the qualities of this new medium of the computer, like interactivity, like networking, like collaboration, and they want to see this also in narrative physical spaces. And this is what Artcom is doing beside other things for the last 23 years. So for instance, making installations like huge multi-touch installations, interactive floors, huge interactive spaces, interactive media stages, or art in public space based on media. Out of time reasons, I can't go in all to these different types of installations, media-based installation in space. Instead of that, I want to focus on a development which we are focusing on the last 5 years. So up to now, when we designed objects in space, media-based objects in space, we usually used monitors, we used LEDs, we used projections. So a lot of this kind of virtual things. And now, since some years, we are focusing very deeply onto the physical stuff. So we are designing physical media-based installation in space. So we don't use any LEDs, no monitors, no projections anymore. We use it, but we are focusing on the other worlds. And so I want to show you some of these projects which we did over the last 5 years. So the big breakthrough in this kind of computationally driven media installations, physical media installations, was an installation we did for the BMW Museum in Munich. It was opened in 2008. And we did a lot of installations there, but also very traditional kind of LED-based, projection-based interactive installation. But we did our first purely physical installation based on mechatronics, based on code, and based on electronics. The installation I want to show is the installation which we did for the first space in the museum. It's a very interesting space because it's dedicated to the car design. So usually if you are designing a space for car design, you show talking heads and monitors, you show pictures of tape drawing designers, and we decided to do a completely different thing, because it's the very first space of the museum, so you have to more or less set a kind of interesting tone for the museum. So we decided to design a floating surface in space with which we can perform the process of a car design. Unfortunately, we have gravity, so there is no floating, no material which we can use to make a floating surface in space. So we made a lot of experiments. How can we design a hovering installation, a hovering surface in space? And you see we used different kind of nets, we used leashes, we even used fabric on ropes and tried to deform it. The contrast is a little bit high, I think you want to change it. But at the end we came up with spheres, hanging spheres on ropes, and they are hovering in space. And with this, the idea was to design a narrative communicating the car design, the process of car design. So this is what we showed BMW, and first they said, I think that's not, we think that's not appropriate to show our design process with metal balls. But then we made a test setup, and I think that's always the best way to convince a client to make a test setup if you're working in this physical computational world. And then they figured out that there are all the brand values in there. So it's dynamic, it's precise, it's challenging. And for us as designers, it was very helpful having this to learn about how can we create a narrative out of, with this kind of installation. So the narrative was quite simple. The storyline at the beginning of a design process, you don't have any idea. You have kind of random white noise. Then over time, the first forms appears, probably already directing onto the final result. And then competing forms appears, alternatives, and at the end there's the car. So this is now a 2-minute compilation out of 8-minute choreography in which we showed the process of design of 5 different important cars of BMW history. short look behind the scene, making off. So usually we are doing the prototypes, the concept, the software, but then we give it out to a workshop because you don't want to do things like that in-house, and also not like that. Then the story development, so we had light, we had sound, even we had spoken text. Content production, we developed a specific kind of computational process to design the whole thing. A lot of test setups. This was a very bad situation 3 weeks before the opening. We had a software bug, so usually every of these ropes or of these spheres get a value, let's say 50 centimeter down, but then we had a flip of the signs, and instead of getting the instruction to go 50 or 100 centimeter down, it went up and destroyed the installation 3 weeks before the opening completely. So, and you know, if you work in physical space, there's no undo, so you have to do it by yourself. Okay, but then we were lucky enough to have a good opening. So the next installation is a project we did. So the car was done in 2008. This was 2010 for the Expo 2010 in Shanghai. And we got a very nice commission for the Pavilion of the Disabled. And it was totally clear for us that the whole Expo will be filled with LEDs, with projections, immersive projections, and it will be a completely retina massage. So we decided to do something very quiet and very poetic. And because it's for the Pavilion of the Disabled, and because it's sponsored by a prosthesis manufacturer, Otto Bock, which is also in Berlin here, we decided to go back to a very old idea of communication, having this mirror reflecting sunlight over long distance. We then asked the prosthesis producer for 100 of hand prostheses, painted them white, put mirrors into it, used motors on the rear, used a strong beam, and designed a computationally driven choreography, again, which reflects this light on the other side of the wall and creating from time to time the Chinese character for movement or handling. So this tested up, and you see the projector is as interesting as the projection. And the reflections on the other side, which is then driven by a computational algorithm. So very simply done and sketched in processing. So this is now set up in Shanghai. So that's installation there. So we didn't put the flowers there, so only the right thing is from us. So this swarm behavior, having a kind of very calm motion there in this Expo 2010. So it's only one beam, 100 prostheses. That's enough. Okay, coming to the last project. This is a project which just recently opened. It's for the Deutsche Bank in their headquarters in Frankfurt. We made several installations for the brand space. As you probably know, they renovated their headquarters in Frankfurt. And beside others, we did, again, kinetic installation, anamorphic kinetic installation. So from a certain point of view, you see the Deutsche Bank logo. Fortunately, the contrast is a little bit high, but probably you can imagine. So we divided the diagonal beam of the Deutsche Bank logo into 48 triangles. And from a certain point of the space, you then see the logo as it is. And we then designed a choreography for these hovering triangles. We had 4 elements to choreograph. We had the vertical movements of the triangles. We had a light choreography which casted nice shadows, and we also designed a projection onto the triangles, which had been extremely difficult because you have these moving triangles in space and you have to hit them directly without any kind of beams going over them. So this was quite a challenge, and again made a dramaturgy, a choreography. And here, 2-minute compilation, again from a 9, now in the meantime it's 12 minutes choreography. So here you can see the projections onto the triangles. I recommend to visit our website and have a close look to it. It was very difficult to mask them and to hit them directly. And you see the computational graphics which are reacting onto the positions of the triangle too. So this is one of 3 of these installations standing there. The other 2, they're really going more into content of the Deutsche Bank and to the brands. Because I have another 3 minutes, I show you the 4th one we did for them. It's a mirror. So they had the problem that they didn't have anything for the entrance area. So we designed an anamorphic mirror, which is where the surface is designed the way that if we have also a blue light going on the other side. So if you're going up the stairs, you see then the Deutsche Bank logo in it. So it's more or less without motors. So by walking by yourself, you're creating this animation. So coming up the stairs, you don't see anything beside this kind of blue reflections. And then if you're coming up, you see the Deutsche Bank logo in the mirror. Okay, this is it. At the end, a little bit of self-promotion. Being now with Artcom for 23 years, we only communicated up to now in the internet about ourselves. But speaking about the physical, we achieved now to design a book. So in 2 weeks' time, beginning of September, our book will be out. It's published by Gestalten Verlag, and if you want to see more of our projects, 45 of them are deeply described in this book, and I hope you will buy it. Okay, thank you.